Good morning, good morning. It is what I call Witness Day. You guys remember this old school board behind me? Well, today I just wanted to kind of utilize it on this little video that I wanted to make for you guys as well. So I'm going to put it down and I'm going to start. You guys remember these, right? Well, we're going to use them this morning. Some of you might be asking, why am I talking about language access? What is going on with AHA? Why all of a sudden? Because if you didn't know, AHA was Workforce Education Solutions was actually born under AHA Interpreting Solutions LLC. I came running out of the gate from a 11-year run under our language compliancy policy that I developed and managed and made sure that everyone was compliant within a hospital system and its entities, because if you receive federal funding, it doesn't matter which of your buildings get it. If one gets it, all must comply. So remember that it doesn't matter if you're a hospital, a government entity, a nonprofit, a banker, a construction. If you're hiring bilinguals, listen to what we found out on our years of doing assessments. So yes, language assessment. So language assessments really is part of compliancy Title VI. It's something that I learned early on. How I got my ethical training was under that Title VI and all those DOL standards in a hospital setting. From Joint Commission, if you're in a hospital setting, those HR that might be listening or those that work in those decision making, we all know what Joint Commission can do to any medical facility. And I was the prime one to make sure with our legal department, we were never dinged, nor were we ever shut down or fined because we didn't provide proper language access services. So enough of the past, let's roll into the future and let's talk about what we do now under our AHA Interpreting Solutions umbrella. So I've been blessed for the last 11 years that we came out of the gate once again strong. We knew what we were doing. We had our formats. We had our materials ready to go, right? And I knew it was going to be important to make sure that our bilinguals, at least in Northwest Arkansas, were continuing to be trained and trained equally with all of those standards on a neutral ground. And so I went running with it, but all in between point A and B came an opportunity for me to be able to develop an assessment with a couple of instructors who work in the ESL and in the college level. And we all got together and we came up with this awesome assessment tool and we customize it to your workforce needs. So let's just say you have someone who works in the front end office. And they're the receptionist. Well, that receptionist is going to get what we call a basic office language workforce based assessment, meaning that we're not going to test them for a celebration or a gathering or a church function. We're going to make sure that all the workforce terms that they're supposed to know, that they're going to know. Same goes for an x-ray tech, a doctor, a aid, anyone in that nature, any hospital roles in the hospital facility, we can customize. And we got our feet wet. And what we did is we learned what other industries were doing, and we partnered up with a couple of cities. So currently, for the last 10 years, we've been actually been able to serve and keep great data on what is the training needs when it comes to language assessment. So when we first started, we would go to them and we'd sit face to face and say, hey, I'm your assessor, we're going to assess you. And it would be nerve wracking. Well, COVID came, hit, long story short, we turned our business onto an online portal and we haven't looked back. We now have an avatar who you'll meet sometime this week as well, who she helps us navigate and make sure that our clients on the other end, which our clients are those that are providing those services for, and then we have our applicants who are those that are referred to us through our employers or through our client partners as well. And we made it easy. We got an online web page where you go in, you schedule them or they schedule, we create you an account to have accessibility for your team or those who you're recruiting, and you self-sufficient and everything's self-sufficient. They click a time, their name, their email, who they're working with, a recruiter or employee, and then boom, they pick their own schedule. We have open spots throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, starting between 10 and probably the latest at 2, which stay tuned because we will be updating that for 2025 as well. Don't know what this thing here is doing, right? But that's my video for you. So let's just get into it because I know we're supposed to have some kind of time limit on this video. So if you don't have enough time to keep watching, put pause and watch it when you can, because it's really not long, but it's kind of interesting, right? So we're going to talk about our year in 2024. 2024 language, what we learned is that when our downtimes are for our clients that we provide assessments to. We know that certain times are busier than others. And then we also know that sometimes some of our clients just need us all the time as well. So in the sense of scheduling, for those that are working with any scheduling or clients that you need to schedule, flexibility is going to be your key, and making sure that they have a portal where they can schedule in their own time, and also a way to cancel, because if you are any kind of business, you should have a fee for cancellation if they don't cancel within 24 hours, right? All right, enough of the business stuff. So 2024, how many assessments did we do in 2024? I say to about 210. And I say 210 because we haven't hit our cutoff in the language access world, which is December as well. So we're up to 210 assessments, you guys. 210 Spanish workforce, right? Spanish workforce, you guys. We've been able to make a difference in the area of compliance, because compliance is huge, right? And why are we doing this? Why do we provide all of this for our clients? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about title, right? It's Title 6, right? So Title 6 here tells you, right? Tells you that you should be able to provide those language services like you need them. So if you, like I said, bottom line is if you get federal funding, you need to start providing better services than maybe what you have been or what you really just didn't know, right? And I hope that we can coordinate and collaborate and come up with a great plan for your organization. So we know we have tested 210 Spanish bilingual identified themselves as being bilingual when they filled out the application. The employer said, "You're awesome, I love you, but let's just double check and make sure you are proficient," because one, we are an organization that follows compliancy. Two, because of federal guidelines, right? Title 6. And three, we don't want to end up in the news for a lawsuit for hiring someone who says they were doing something and not. I mean, we've heard the stories of the Olympic boxer, I think he is, and maybe I'm wrong, that had an interpreter who wasn't an interpreter and just took from all his money. What? Who does that? Well, unfortunately, that happens, but let's talk about the language aspect. You don't want anyone representing you or your organization as being language proficient in that area if they're really not. I'm not saying that they have to be 100%, but let's just make sure all of those key terms that they're going to use daily, that they know it. And let's make sure that you at the end save some money in your budget, because you want to make sure you're compensating those that are truly able to speak that second language in their workforce, right? So if you're sitting back at your desk and you're hearing the conversation and you're asking Mary Ann, "Hey, can you tell this person X, Y, and Z?" And that conversation is going and going, and you might ask a 4 or 5 question sentence, right? That might be a sign that there might be some issues there, because there's also what we call standards and guidelines, that compliancy training that we as well offer. But that's a whole nother video, right? So let's just really just talk about the 210 and what our findings are. We found that we customize our language assessments during the day, not too early, not too late. Your brain doesn't work as good as it should until it little starts going. It's kind of like when you get out of your bed and you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, all right, I'm ready to go. kind of like your brain, right? And now think of your brain in two different languages. Come on, right? Who's going to want to test at 6 o'clock in the morning? Not myself, did it, done it, not going to make anyone else do it. And then we don't schedule someone late in the evening. Why? Because those two brains, at a certain amount of time, if you're that key interpreter, your brain is going to become mush. You are going to realize that you cannot be a superhero in the evenings or early in the morning, that you're going to have a certain amount of time in your day where you are shooting X, Y, and Z's, and you're going back and forth, and you're going into this room, and you're getting paid by this person. If that's you, please give me some kind of comment on this video as well if you're getting my vibe, right? So what I've learned being myself, I started my interpreting in an ER setting at the back end when patients would come in. The collector, or whatever you want to call it, through the business services. I learned, firsthand on what was needed. And at that point in time, unfortunately, they were pulling people that looked like myself from like housekeeping or from other departments because they needed services. And I knew, wait a minute, something's not right. And then when they asked me to interpret, I knew that I was not even supposed to be interpreting at that point in time, right? I always made sure at that point that I would tell whoever asked me to interpret, if you can say it in basic common terms, I'm your girl. But if not, I can't help you, right? And so that led to me working for our business office and then led me to our legal department. I was the chica behind the compliance claims, make sure that they were getting processed to insurance. Were we going to sue them? Were we going to go to court? What we were going to do. So that gave me a good umbrella with the lawyer of the hospital, right? Because every hospital has to have a lawyer. And that communication started going. I liked the compliance vibe. I learned, I took it, and then boom, I got an opportunity to develop a whole program for not just the hospital, but like I said, all of the clinics associated with the hospital. Because remember, if you receive federal funding to one organization in your entity, then all must be compliant. And so we're blessed. We're blessed that we're able to say we've done assessments for city workers, from those that work with our pets, to those that work in landscaping, that take park and recreation, to those that work in courthouses, to our 911 operators, to supervisors, to clerks. We've kind of had our experience with working with cities, right? Emergency 911, ambulance, fighters, we police, we have our assessments ready to go. But then we also specialize in that medical field because why would I not, right? That would be silly. So let's just go fast forward. So long story short, my experience is there. We've able to provide now two major hospitals in Arkansas our language assessments that keep us kind of busy. And why do you want to know a little bit more about our findings? Because it's really sometimes things that we overlooked, right? So let's talk about what we find are most common terms that are missed on a regularly. And when I say regularly, we have assessments almost every day. Of course, during the holidays, it seems to kind of slow down a little bit. But as soon as those recruiters get out there and start recruiting, we definitely know we're on for business. And since we provide an online service, we're able to adapt even in if a recruiter goes to a job fair and she's hiring people on right there. It's as simple as having some earphones, a laptop, Wi-Fi, and the ability to click on to our Zoom link, and you can assess them right then and there and see if you'll be able to offer them a little bit more or if this is the right person for you. So I'm excited. Let's just get to it. Really, we're gonna say 1, 2, 3. What do you think those terms are going to be, right? We're going to say that based on what we found, MRI, CT scan, and X-ray. Why are these terms important? Oh, that's MRI, not MRT. Because when a patient comes in, you're not going to tell them, hola, señor María, le van a mandar para hacerle una MRI. Right? What is that? What is an MRI? or a CT scan or CT scan. Like what is even an MRI? Like that's where I feel passionate about making sure that interpreters just don't know the proper term but can describe it. Because we all know that if we say this proper term, they're not going to, and our patients aren't going to understand it. But what they are going to understand is us sharing what they to expect. That they shouldn't wear any metal, any jewelry, right? That they should dress comfortably. That they're going to get put inside I guess you would call it a bed, and the bed slides into a circle kind of tube, and the noises are going to be big, loud, and you're going to get earplugs, and you're going to have a little button to push in case you are claustrophobic. Are you claustrophobic? Right? Like these are things you need to know once you describe that MRI, because if you say MRI and that patient's eyes go like, oh, okay, are you claustrophobic? Hey, Dr. Smith, she's claustrophobic. He's claustrophobic. Guess what, doctor? They're going to give you a prescription to give to your patient. So when that time comes, right, we know what it is that we're doing. So those are the three terms that we kind of see that happen that are a mistake. No matter what department you work at, working in a hospital, you should know those terms because eventually they're going to come across your pathway as well. So let's talk about areas that are missed most often. We're still in health. We're going to talk about cardio, female organ, so these areas are important. If you're being assessed as a full interpreter, you best believe we're going to test you on these cardio, right? On the cardio area. And not just heart, because heart is a basic anatomy, a basic term. You should know heart, liver, stomach, gallbladder, all of that is basic. But do you know the deep of cardio, right? Do you know how to say your arterial? Do you know how to say certain terms that you need to in order if you're going to be working in a hospital, especially with kiddos or even adults or elderly, you need to know cardio. Female organs is important, especially if you're working in a hospital that serves females. Why would you not know how to say ovary or fallopian tube? Why wouldn't you? How would you even explain to a woman that she's having problems with her fallopian tubes and maybe she won't ever be able to have children? Come on, you guys. These are important areas for us to know. And one other one that always kind of tickles me, I'm doing a really simple one. Which one do you guys think that I'm talking about, right? We're going to say it is IV. IV, right? What is an IV? Miss Maria, ¿le van a poner un IV? Oh, what is an IV? Like, come on. Like, you just can't say IV, IV fluids, IV líquidos. You can't, you have to learn it, right? So just learn it, right? And our assessments really help our medical industry with these terms, because they're simple terms and we think like, oh, really? IV? Oh, everyone should know IV, right? Not, especially if you're not something that you're doing all the time and that you've been used to not saying the proper word for IV, right? So learn it, learn it, learn it. So now let's just talk about basic customer service, that this applies to all the industries. What are the most common greetings that are missed? This is not AI, this is an old school, right? So, yes, I'm sorry and urgent matter. Especially when you have a phone call and you need to tell me, Maria, it's an urgent matter, right? Or I'm sorry, especially in industries where we don't say I'm sorry. You don't want your bilingual to stutter. What? How am I even going to say I'm sorry? Especially if you're talking about any kind of liability as well. So let's talk about some couple other things that we sometimes get a little bit shaky on that is kind of sometimes a little chuckling as well. Let's talk about colors. What colors do you think the bilinguals that we've tested kind of always fumble on? Let's say it is fall and orange. Why orange? Because sometimes your tongue doesn't roll, and sometimes you think of the fruit when you're thinking about the color as well. And a couple other things before we shut it down. Numbers. What is the most missed number? 2,395. Why? I still don't know. Haven't dug deep into that, but those are at least our findings so far. So, any other questions that you want to know about our findings? Stay tuned. We'll roll it out. We'll talk about background, what we found in the sense of pre-education. We don't really ask a lot when we get online, but we do ask, have you ever received any kind of medical training or interpreting training? Is usually our question. So, all right, you guys. So with that 2,395, we have done so far 210 plus assessments in 2024. So there you go. If you need any more information, make sure to connect with me. You can connect with me on our web at www.ahaworkforce.com. This is Ileana, once again, being an innovator, going back to the dry erase marker and the dry erase board. Yep, y'all see my ambassador certificate here, along with my Snoopy, right? Always a new year, always out together to get everyone some great information. Hope you guys enjoyed.